Today we're diving deep into the full story, ending, and hidden meaning behind Scream 7, the seventh chapter of the legendary horror franchise that began with Scream. This film attempts to bring the series back to its emotional center while mixing classic slasher structure, modern technology horror, and the long-running mythology surrounding Ghostface. So if you love franchise lore, killer identity theories, and dark horror storytelling, stay with me because this story gets complicated. The heart of the movie is the return of Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott, now living under the married identity Sidney Evans. Unlike the earlier films where Sidney was constantly pulled into chaos, this version of the character tries to achieve something the franchise rarely allowed her to have: peace. She is married to Police Chief Mark Evans and lives in the quiet town of Pine Grove, Indiana. The setting itself is symbolic. After decades of violence in Woodsboro and other urban locations, Pine Grove represents false safety, the horror movie version of suburban comfort. Sidney even runs a small coffee shop and tries to live as a normal mother, raising her 3 children. But as every Scream fan knows, normal life is never permanent. The emotional core of the story is Sidney's teenage daughter, Tatum. Named after Sidney's childhood friend, Tatum represents the franchise's attempt to pass the narrative torch. Tatum is 17 years old, rebellious and frustrated by her mother's emotional distance. She wants to know the full truth about Sidney's past. Sidney refuses. She believes trauma should not be inherited. This mother-daughter tension mirrors earlier dynamics between Sidney and Gale Weathers, continuing the franchise's theme of how media and violence shape identity. The film opens with a couple visiting the infamous Stu Macher house, now converted into a horror tourism destination. The house belongs to the mythology of the original massacre from Scream. The characters are Scott, a hardcore Stab franchise fan, and his girlfriend, Madison. Scott represents obsessive nostalgia culture, someone who wants to live inside horror mythology instead of respecting its history. The location contains crime scene outlines and Stab movie memorabilia. There is even an animatronic Ghostface that raises a plastic knife when triggered. The symbolism is obvious. The past is being turned into entertainment, and entertainment is being weaponized. The couple is murdered brutally. The violence is noticeably more graphic than earlier franchise entries, echoing the darker horror style that influenced post-2000 slasher cinema following Scream 3. Madison's character is important because she subverts horror stereotypes. She is blonde, visually reminiscent of traditional final victim archetypes, but she is intelligent, aware of horror rules, and fights back. However, the film refuses to guarantee survival for any character. The story escalates when Sidney receives a terrifying video call. The voice belongs to Matthew Lillard's character, Stu Macher. Stu was supposedly killed when a television set was dropped on him during the events of Scream, but here he appears again. His face is scarred, matching the injuries from the original film. The story intentionally keeps the mystery ambiguous. Is this really Stu, or is it artificial intelligence impersonation? This is where the film tries to connect slasher horror with modern technology anxiety. The killer uses deep-fake technology and AI voice reconstruction to impersonate past Ghostface figures. Characters debate the possibility. Gale Weathers, played by Courtney Cox, believes it could be digital deception. The younger survivors, Mindy and Chad Meeks Martin, portrayed by Jasmine Savoy Brown and Mason Gooding, argue that stranger things have happened in franchise history. The film intentionally avoids confirming whether the AI theory is real or just part of the killer's psychological manipulation. The main villain group believes Sidney abandoned her symbolic role. Their ideology is disturbingly meta. They believe horror franchises require a permanent final girl. In their philosophy, if the original survivor retires, society must manufacture a new trauma survivor. Their plan is horrifyingly psychological. They want to kill Sidney, then force Tatum to watch everyone she loves die. The goal is to break her mentally and transform her into a new Sidney 2.0, a successor shaped by violence. This becomes the central meta-commentary of the movie. The film is essentially asking, can legacy horror franchises survive without their original heroes? Rumors within the story strongly suggest the existence of a Ghostface network. The film hints that there may be more than two killers operating together. Some theories connect this to abandoned story ideas originally discussed by Kevin Williamson during early development of the franchise. Fans have long speculated about a Ghostface cult. The movie keeps this ambiguous but leaves narrative doors open. One of the biggest fan theories revolves around the Macher bloodline. Some viewers believe the antagonist may be connected to Stu Macher's unseen family. The character Jessica, played by Anna Camp, is suspected by many fans to be secretly related to Stu. She lives near Sidney in Pine Grove. Her son, Logan, is described as having a psychological profile similar to real-world historical criminal archetypes. The theory suggests Jessica could be Stu's sister, Logan could be Stu's nephew, the mother-son pair could be leading a Ghostface cult. The film never fully confirms this, keeping the mystery alive. The final battle brings Sidney and Tatum together. They confront the primary Ghostface mastermind. The confrontation is brutal. Sidney and her daughter defeat the killer in a violent showdown that emphasizes their emotional bond. After the battle, Sidney promises to teach Tatum self-defense. This is the symbolic passing of the franchise torch. The climax takes place after Sidney and Tatum uncover the identity of the primary Ghostface conspirator, leading to the final confrontation between mother, daughter, and the killer. The main antagonist, associated with the Pine Grove Ghostface network, is defeated in a violent showdown that emphasizes the emotional connection between Sidney and Tatum, rather than glorifying the violence itself. This ending is important because it represents the thematic heart of the movie. The story is not really about who wears the mask. It is about whether trauma must be inherited. After the battle ends, Sidney Prescott makes a promise to her daughter Tatum that she will teach her how to defend herself. This scene is highly symbolic. For 3 decades, Sidney has been the eternal survivor, the franchise's final girl archetype. But the movie suggests she no longer needs to carry the burden alone. Tatum is positioned as the potential future emotional center of the series. This is the clearest sign that the franchise is attempting generational transition. The ending also reinforces the formation of a new character trio intended to carry future stories. The structure mirrors the original franchise trio. Tatum represents the survival legacy of Sidney's role. Mindy represents the intellectual and analytical horror rule-keeper role previously associated with franchise characters like Randy, and Chad represents the protective warrior figure similar to Dewey's archetype. This suggests the possibility that Scream 8 and future installments may center on this younger configuration. The most controversial and mysterious element of the ending is the fate of Matthew Lillard's character, Stu Macher. The film never definitively confirms whether Stu is alive. The AI deepfake narrative is used to intentionally blur reality. The missing official death documentation becomes the primary mystery hook. During the investigation, Sidney and Gail discover that records confirming Stu's death are mysteriously absent. This could mean 2 things. The Ghostface cult destroyed the paperwork to strengthen the illusion, or there is a possibility that Stu survived the original attack. The film deliberately avoids answering this. The story strongly implies the existence of a larger organization behind the killings. Their villains believe horror franchises require a permanent survivor figure. Their ideology is terrifyingly meta. They want to engineer a new final girl by forcing Tatum to witness mass violence and trauma. The psychological objective was more important than simple revenge. This makes the killers more philosophical than traditional slasher antagonists. The conclusion leaves the future intentionally open. The movie acts as the possible starting point of a new trilogy centered on Tatum's generation. The narrative suggests that the Ghostface mythology is evolving from individual killers into a potential network or cult-like structure. The AI and deepfake technology element also represents modern horror fears, not supernatural resurrection, but technological imitation of the dead. The ending of Scream 7 ultimately argues that trauma cannot be erased but can be transformed. Sidney does not defeat her past by destroying it completely. Instead, she passes knowledge and survival strength to the next generation. The horror is not only the knife-wielding killer, it is the possibility that violence can become a cultural inheritance.